Hey,
South Carolina this.
hey, everybody, welcome to Beyond the Booth with Phil Harris and Randall Cunningham. Third Tuesday night edition. Yesterday being the holiday, decided to delay it tonight because of our guest and the fact, Phil, it's my birthday today.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the thing is about that. I thought what I was talking about. We could bake you a cake, but if we lit the candles, we'd have to call the fire department. So I guess that's an out.
It would probably look like Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Going on.
Force fire.
Absolutely. Later on tonight, we're going to have from South Pittsburgh High School, Coach Ricky Gilley and his son, outside linebacker Cavin Gilley. Strange thing about this, Phil, we set this up before the season. I thought about doing this, and we talked with Coach Gilley a little bit, and then Coach Gilley reminded me of it, and it was like, yeah, this would be a good idea. And Phil, since then, South Pittsburgh's number 1 in 1A, and Squatch County's number 5 in 3A. So the game takes on a whole different feel now.
Yeah, well, really, you think about it, it's a big rivalry anyway, but both teams have been successful the first part of the season. And, of course, everybody expected this. I think, people knew South Pittsburgh would be 3-0 at this point, probably. But Sequatchie County's kind of worked their way into this slot to where they're 3-0, but they're playing with a lot of confidence. And, South Pittsburgh really has not been tested.
No.
So I guarantee you South Pittsburgh's looking forward to this game, not because just it's a rivalry, but because they're going to get to see somebody that gives them a look. So this has to be exciting for the coaching staff and kids.
Absolutely. And that's a great question. I will ask Coach Gilley here in a little while. I think I've said it since week one. 1A is kind of South Pittsburgh's to do with what it wants to, and almost feels like as long as South Pittsburgh plays to their level, 1A belongs to them. And traditional power, multiple time state champion, no better football team in that 1A bracket than South Pittsburgh in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, probably so. Of course, the other major factor there is you've got, at a 1A level, you don't have a whole lot of kids, so you have to be pretty much stay healthy.
Yeah.
Because it don't take but about lose 2 or 3 kids, and it can derail your whole season.
Yes. Also, we're going to touch on Alabama here in a little while, but I want to get some comments up front. A huge matchup in 2A in the state of Alabama with Geraldine playing 5 field and, Coach Paul Benefield and the 5 Red Devils lose very rarely, but the Bulldogs look like they're for real.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, Geraldine's in 3A.
3A.
And Feist in 2A.
Yes.
So it wasn't a region game, but it's a huge rivalry. And Coach Michael Davis was an outstanding coach. He beat 5 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. Well, anyway, he beat 5 recently. And so he's had some success against them. And he's a very confident coach. And, 5, they were very good last year, but they're very young up front. And 5 did those things that normally they don't do. That's make mistakes. And Geraldine didn't have a turnover, executed, and found a way to win that football game. And it was a huge win for the Geraldine Bulldogs. But don't count 5 out because they're still going to have an outstanding year. But that's one of those everybody kind of points to down here. Anytime 5 gets beat, it's news.
Well, in that 3A region, you have Geraldine and Sylvania starts 49-0 or 49-14 over Sachs. That looks to be the power of that region, and you can't forget Coach Smith sitting down at Westbrook Christian.
Yeah, and also you've got Piedmont because Piedmont's going to be traveling. They're going to be traveling to Sylvania this week. Of course, they lost to Cherokee County opening week. And then, of course, also you got to watch out for Plainview because Plainview won an opening game that was big. Yes, and of course Westbrook. They're going to be a lot better football team. Now I don't know if they're quite ready to play with the big boys, but they're one of those teams that's going to challenge for a playoff spot.
maybe one of the hardest regions, regardless of classification, in the state of Alabama. But we'll get there in a second. I want to start in the state of Tennessee with some scores, Phil, and get some gut reactions. One major upset in the state of Tennessee. I don't know if we call it a major upset. We'll get to it shortly. But first score that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention is Baylor played all the way in New York State, Phil. And you've talked about it, how that bothers you that nobody locally gets to see Baylor like they used to. But they have went from Florida to New York to play football games this year.
Yeah, that's amazing that they have to do that. But, these bigger schools, these prep schools, your IMGs and people like that, they've started, playing each other on a higher level. But, that's part of their base for recruiting kids to come to their school.
Absolutely.
You look around and you're going to get to make a trip to New York and spend the weekend and things like that. That's how you get kids to come to your school, because it's a little different angle, and these schools are playing each other outside the state. And you see that, even down here with your better teams will play schools from Georgia, schools from Tennessee. And, and that's fun for the kids to get to make that long bus trip, or in Baylor's case, probably flight.
Yes.
But, it's a recruiting tool when you get to play the top-notch type teams. Who wouldn't want to play against IMG Academy out of Florida?
Oh,
Anybody would.
Anybody. And, you see Lipscomb kind of over in Middle Tennessee in the Nashville area has played IMG and Saraland in Alabama to open their season. And that's two of the top 25 teams in the nation.
Yeah, Saraland's number 1 ranked in Class 6A down here, and they're going to have a great year. They've got some outstanding football players on their team. And, they hung in there with them and didn't really do bad against IMG Academy either. No.
Nope. Moving on, Phil, to Bledsoe County gets on the good side here with a 27-0 blanking of Sale Creek. And Sale Creek, with new coach Jeremy Fitzgerald from Meigs County, formerly at Hickson, has a track record of building these programs. But Phil, in 4 months, we may be just a little early on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're starting from scratch. He's learning his kids. And, they made it competitive, because, we have seen these kind of games be 50, 60 to nothing. So they hung in the ball game anyway. Of course, I know, really with Bledsoe County, they've got a good football team, but they're not what you would call an explosive team. They're well coached, and they're going to win a lot of games because they're well coached.
Yes, absolutely. Coach Tabor, that staff, one of the best ones in the state. Boyd Buchanan, 30 over CAK 8. CAK's not quite what they were a few years ago, Phil. You're starting to see CAK out a little bit.
Well, sometimes this goes in cycles, but also Boyd Buchanan's, got a good football program in their own, in their own right. But you can't be on top all the time. So you're going to have your down years, and of course, we know that Boyd Buchanan's on their way to a higher level.
Absolutely, and then of course, probably the biggest game statewide. All kinds of implications. And it's a region game, and it is Bradley Central 21, Maryville 13. A lot of 2 Tennessee commits on Bradley Central, a high quality quarterback transfer from Ray County. Bradley Central is for real.
Yeah, definitely so. They are running the table right now. And, of course, they're going to get everybody's best. But beating a Maryville team that's seasoned, they're used to this kind of game, used to this kind of atmosphere. And so that's a huge win for Cherokee, for Bradley Central to beat Maryville, because, Maryville year in, year out, they're kind of like Alcoa. They're going to be up there.
Yeah, I told everybody it wasn't the fact that they beat another very good team. It's that they beat a team that's always there in the state titles, and you've got to get your confidence up with that.
Oh, yeah, because, really and truly, when you play Maryville, they've got you 14-0 before the game ever starts.
Absolutely.
Because you may have as good players as they do, but they have that. Back in the years I could remember, Red Bank used to win a lot of football games because everybody was afraid of that Red Bank name. That was that respect factor, and you could spot them 7 before the game ever started. And they may not have as good of players as you do, but they're so used to winning.
And a very tightly fought. And I had a friend at the game and got a report from there. Brainerd 12 over Chattanooga Prep 6. It's good to see Brainerd get the W, and it's good to see Chattanooga Prep kind of start competing with some teams. It's a new program, so Brainerd gets the win, but Chattanooga Prep with a nice showing.
Yeah, definitely so. And that's one of them Brainerd needed. It's a game. It was a winnable game for them, and they're trying to build a little confidence there. But that is a huge win for the Brainerd Panthers, definitely for sure.
Let's. I didn't lay down all my scores the way I wanted it. There it is. Chattanooga Christian 49, Knox Grace 23. Move on down to Coalfield 28, Greenback 0. That's a region kind of game. Then we get over to East Hamilton 41 over Franklin County 34. East Hamilton, almost when you see East Hamilton up, you see Ooltewah down. When you see Ooltewah up, see East Hamilton down. Those schools, they're kind of over there close, Phil, but you feel like East Hamilton someday, some way, will be a football power in the city of Chattanooga.
Yeah, they're just a rock throw from each other. It's amazing how close those two schools are. And I can remember when I went to Ooltewah, we only had, in the Chattanooga area, you only went up to basically 3 classifications.
Yes.
Ooltewah was a 2A. They played in the region with Howard. And so, it was a decent-sized school, but not a huge school. It was kind of, the old school was out in the country. Then they built that school that over there close to where near Hamilton Place now. And I think it was the second year of the school when I went there. Boy, things really changed around that area. That Collegedale area really grew. So they ended up having to build another school because so many people moved out in that area.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, at one point, 2 of the largest 5 high schools in the state of Tennessee was Bradley Central before they built Walker Valley, and I think Ooltewah was pretty close to the top 10 when they beat East Hamilton. Matter of fact, Bradley Central, before they built Walker Valley, was the largest school in the state of Tennessee. So sometimes community growth forces you to do some things like that.
Yeah, because you overcrowd those schools and you really can't expand them. Ooltewah really didn't have anywhere to go. They couldn't make the school any bigger. The campus is full. There's nowhere where you go, so it forces you to build another institution. But that's good because that means the Chattanooga area is growing, and that's always a good thing.
Grundy County 42-6 over Lookout Valley. 2 teams that very little success. Grundy, while they're still playing 3A, Phil, has kind of eased off of that schedule, and they've got some chance to win some games this year. Grundy has got a legitimate chance.
Yeah, they didn't look bad in the Jamboree. They've won 2 or 3 here now. Aren't they 3-0? Haven't they won 3?
Yes.
Because they're 3-0. I mean, they haven't beaten maybe what you would call world beaters, but with this team, I thought they looked pretty good. I was impressed by them in the Jamboree. They were, outclassed, really. I mean, there was a whole lot better. There were some good football teams there, but they looked good to me. And went out on the field, and they've done well so far.
And a team that needed to take a win, and a big win for the Hickson Wildcats, 21-16 over Ooltewah. Phil, Hickson had big hopes coming into the year, and they kind of stumbled out of the gate, losing quarterback Luke Finch early on. Did not help. Chase Barnard played and has played well. Is in the top 5 in the state in passing, but sometimes you just got to get a win somewhere, and they get one over the Owls Friday night.
Well, their first two ball games was tough. Even at 100%, if Finch hadn't been hurt, that would have been two tough games for them to win. But this Ottawa game was a winnable game for them, and they needed it. Because you feel like that for them to get that one, that they were about to lose this whole season. But this kind of settles everything down. Everybody will be confident in the quarterback. Now, hey, we win this guy. And so it'd be a totally different football team. Now had they fallen to 0-3, now it'd have been tough. But this was a huge win. And it kind of rights the ship, and that's something Hicks needs.
Phil, and before we go to the next school, I want to ask you about something. There's kind of a wave of new schools in Tennessee, which are based in the home school and the Christian school. Like Grundy County plays Tennessee Heat this week, which is a Christian private, like homeschool network of kids. Howard played Republic. Chattanooga Prep is similar to that. Ezell Harding, which they've always been at Ezell Harding, but now there's two of them. It's like a Christian academy. It's really tough, to judge these teams, and you see them start playing, and most of them are a year or two into it. It's tough to start a program.
Oh, yeah, because, and the biggest thing is I tell everybody what makes it hard is you don't have much of an alumni base. That's what makes it hard. So you don't have that. You've got parents going to the game, but that's about it. When you go to these local communities like down here, everybody's went to school at Valley Head, say, for instance, since 1940s and 50s, go to ball games. So you have a huge alumni base. So you have great support in the community. When you're just starting out, it's tough because you don't have that alumni base. You just mainly got, kids from the community going to the ball games. And so, that makes it tough to get started in. And a lot of times these teams have to recruit. There's no other really way they can be competitive.
Absolutely. And that was Howard 46 over Republic 0. Moving on down to some more scores of the area. One I got a report from today from a parent. And hey, if you're a parent at one of these schools, you want to text us in a little report, that's great. Then we know a little more about what happened. Ray County got off to a great start. Big win over Red Bank, but Phil lost their first quarterback and their first and second running backs. Ethan Davis, everything running back goes down. Their second teamer goes down. They lose their first team quarterback and end up getting upset at Knox Central 14-7. Sounds like Ray County faced a world of trouble. And then this week, they get a break. They play Howard in region. So they can probably just get through that and let some people heal.
Well, did they lose them kids for the year, or they just out for a short period of time?
I think both of them will be back, but it could be 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, that's better than losing them for the year because, with them coming off the 2-8 season, they're probably not real deep. Their first 22 are probably really good, but, they're just now starting to develop depth and getting better. And so when you lose players like that, it really hurts you because you've probably not got a whole lot of playing experience behind those guys.
No.
But they're sold to the Wolves now. They're going to have to get ready to play. And this will make them better. If they get their starters back, then you will have backups because they'll have a little bit of playing time and you can rest those guys sometimes.
Loudon all over Saudi Daisy, 28-0. And Saudi Daisy is struggling, Phil. That's a program that 10 years ago, or let's go back 20 years ago, was always consistent. And now Saudi Daisy's really struggling as a program over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think that it kind of goes in the sense that kind of like the way it's happened with Hicks and the way it happened with Saudi Daisy. They'll have a run for a few years where they're real good, but traditionally are not strong year in and year out. They just kind of have to pick their spots. Mm-hmm. Where you'll have some good kids come through, and I think that's kind of what happens to Saudi Daisy a lot of the time.
Excuse me, I escaped that one. McMahon County, and Phil going through McMahon County record. There's next week they play Sequatchie County. We get both Marion County schools back to back here, but Marion County has a very manageable schedule. If I think they get out no less than 8 wins, and they get one this weekend over Chattanooga Central, and that's Marion County was 5-5 last year, which is shocking for Marion County.
Yeah. So they're going to have a good season. There ain't no doubt about it. They went down. They beat Dade County. I know Dade County's pretty good. They got hammered in the first leg by some private schools, but that was a big win beating Dade County. That was a team that was a great test. They're much better than what their record indicates.
Much better than the average public would think.
Marion County's going to be good. They're going to be a tough opponent for a lot of people.
McCallie travels to Ohio. The never-ending McCallie and Baylor travels and plays St. X 34-11 over St. X.
Yeah, that was I think they played them in the past.
Yes, they
played them before.
Yes, they played St. X before a couple of times.
Yeah, I think they played St. X because they played one team from Canada one time.
Yes,
but McCallie, it's tough for them to find ball games because when you're as good as they are, man, you got to do that. And I'm sure some of it they'd like to play some teams that are closer to home, but they're hard to find.
Absolutely.
Because nobody wants to play against them. I would.
McMinn Central over Polk County, and then McMinn County 47, Tyner 14. You talk about losing some kids. Tyner graduated a large portion of that state championship team, and they're struggling at this point for it, Phil.
Yeah, but look at the 3 opponents they had to play. Because I'm going to tell you something, McMinn County's no slouch. They gave Bradley Central all they wanted. McMinn County's got a good football team. So the 3 teams that Tyner's played, even if they were a senior-laden team, them would have been tough opponents for them. They might be 0. They wouldn't get beat like they've been getting beat, but they might still be 0-3 and playing for a state championship.
Yep. Meigs County over Kingston, 12-0. See if there's, of course, the big one at Red Bank at 27-6 over East Ridge. East Ridge had a great showing for themselves in this game, Phil, and played a better Red Bank team. East Ridge had come off giving up 59 to Sequatchie, holds Red Bank to 27. I think East Ridge had to be happy with the effort of the kids. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, they're another one of them teams. They're not a bad football team. It's just the teams they've had to play out the gate.
Yes.
I mean, they're a pretty good 0-3 football team. And, and I think they hung in with Sequatchie County for a little while. The wheels kind of just run off on them.
Yeah.
They're not a bad football team. Of course, some of that, too, is lacking in confidence. When you start at 0-3 and things don't go well, you might be a good football team, but the confidence factor is so important in high school football.
Absolutely. And then the big one for me, big region matchup, a game. Phil, you've done a lot of games, and you can, when one's fun and you're calling it, it's completely different. And this one, as fun a game as I've called, maybe in the Sequatchie County booth. Sequatchie County 27, Watertown 21. Sequatchie County gets the win over a region opponent, a top 10 opponent, and vaults into the TSSAA 3A rankings at number 5 this week.
Yeah, that's a huge win. And, you talked about that last week, is no matter what happens, this could have been for a home playoff spot in the first round. And we know how important that is. Of course, you want to win a region title. But if you can clinch a first-round playoff spot at home, that's huge. And this was the type of game they had. And this will prepare them for the game coming this week and the game against Giles County. Is these kind of games is what makes you mentally tough because you got to battle for 4 quarters.
Quarterback Sam Evans leads the state in every 3A passing category going into the South Pittsburgh game. And it'll be interesting to talk to Coach Gilley, who is their defensive passing game coordinator, how you attack that Sequatchie County pass game. And of course, Signal Mountain 27, Sequoia 21. And then the other side of that matchup, South Pittsburgh 67, Copper Basin nothing.
Oh, yeah, that's, right now South Pittsburgh's only in 1A, and this will really be their first complete test, I think. They want to get some good teams, but teams that's not quite in the class they are.
Yes.
But Sequatchie County is going to be a good test for them, and I'm sure they looked at week 4 when they'll play Sequatchie County, that's going to be our measuring stick.
Yes. Couple more games to get in. A huge rivalry up in Bradley County. Walker Valley 20, Cleveland 14. Phil, if I'd have picked that game ahead of time, I think I'd have picked Cleveland. So Walker Valley kind of pulls the minor upset there in my head.
Yeah, because Cleveland's not bad. I mean, they're not quite on the level with your Bradley Central, but still they're a good football team. So that won't surprise me too. I didn't think Walker Valley would beat them, but that was a shocker to me.
Another team we saw in the Jamboree just continues to play well. Whitwell 35, Joe Burns 8.
Yeah. Yes, and we saw them, they're not a real deep football team, but a very physical team. They're pretty good size. So I'm not surprised at the success in the early going for this Whitwell football team.
A couple of North Georgia schools, and we'll go on down to Alabama. Calhoun 28 over Creekview 14. Calhoun just continues to be the class in North Georgia.
Yeah, they're year in and year out. Of course, they've not been, at that playoff run where they get down to the state championship games lately, but still, year in, year out, they're one of the top teams in North Georgia. I'm sorry.
And we talked about this Dade County team is 1-2, but 55-13 over North Sand Mountain this weekend, which is a big rivalry, and it's a cross-state rivalry, but those two communities border each other. That's a big football game.
Yeah, well, Dade County is a much bigger school than North Sand Mountain. But, the level that some of the teams that Dade County plays, I mean, they lost that first game, then they lost a narrow one 10-6. So they're a lot better than their record indicates. And they're going to win some football games. Ain't no doubt about that.
Dalton run out to 2-0 with a 50-14 victory over Sonorville. And what I thought was another surprising outcome. I kind of thought Gordon Lee would win the football game, but Gordon Lee 44, Southwest Whitfield 16.
Yeah, Southeast. Of course they're not no huge juggernaut, but this was a Gordon Lee team. That's their first home game after the first 2 road games, and they have really come a long way since that opening season loss to Trine. They had a hard time up front slowing down anything Trine did to them. So evidently they've made some adjustments and shored up some shortcomings on the defensive side of the football, and have played much better the last 2 weeks.
Just across the Chattanooga state line, Heritage 35, LFO 28, and what I understand, Phil, was quite a barn burner.
Yeah, definitely so. Because Lakeview, they've got a decent football team, but Heritage, that puts them at a 2-1 record. Their only loss is to Ringo so far. So Heritage is off to a pretty good start. I think LFO, I don't think's won one yet.
1-2.
That was a dandy football game.
Northwest Whitfield falls to Ringo 21-17.
Yeah, of course, Ringo's got a good football team. This was a great matchup because Northwest is pretty good too. I think both these teams came into this game undefeated. But Ringo, everybody talks about they've got a good football team. Now they're 3-0 as they knock off Northwest, and that's a big rivalry.
And then another, not that North Mary beat Ridgeland, but the size 63-35. Ridgeland was a program when that school first started that you thought was going to have a good program. Kind of a struggle the last 18, 24 months.
Yeah, of course, their coach is trying to get them all on the same page. He's changed a lot of things there at Ridgeland, and I think the future's bright there. but they still got a long way to go. And yeah, I was surprised at how bad they got beat because it's a very athletic football team. But giving up 63 points, that was kind of a surprise.
Absolutely. Well, Phil, let's run down to Alabama in your territory. Of course, Phil's the host of the WQSB Friday night. What do y'all call it? Friday night scoreboard.
Scoreboard, yes.
And with Jeff Allen, y'all do a great job. This week, and let me go ahead and say this: if you're listening, Phil and I both are man of faith. We had a young man that got. I don't know the medical status now. I know he's still dealing with stuff. Who got knocked out during the Watertown game, and if you're of the one of faith, say some prayers for him. But I didn't get home in time to listen to you, Phil, because we didn't finish up till after midnight, and you hate to see a young man get just EMTs were fabulous. Everybody was fabulous, but you hate to see that in a football game.
Yeah, well, there's heavy hearts down here. There was a freshman. He actually was on the varsity football team at Albertville. Got killed in a motorcycle accident on Monday.
Oh Lord!
So there's going to be heavy hearts down here at Albertville High School. So, he had made the varsity team as a ninth grader and was a good football player, but lost his life on Monday. So, it's going to be heavy hearts down here. You hate to see that. It wasn't a football field injury, but nonetheless, he was a kid with a bright future, and you hate to see those young men with their lives cut short like that. So
absolutely.
My thoughts and prayers are with his family.
Absolutely. And if you're a listener on River City Media, I try to find some coverage of that and post it. I did not know about that, Phil, but
yeah, it happened Monday. So, it's, everybody's just kind of getting back to work today. So it happened, I think, on Monday morning. So it's just a tragic deal to come across on the internet. So I don't think everybody really knows about
it. Yeah. That's a tragic situation. Prayers to that family. But let's try to get through that Alabama region down there. Some big action, including Coach Van, in action this week.
Yeah, that 49-14 win. Of course, they were up 49-0 at one point, but no real surprise there. Sachs is a very athletic team, but the last couple of the years they've kind of slid back just a little bit. And of course, we know that this Sylvania team is a very good football team. And of course, they have their region kickoff game next week or this week against Piedmont. So no surprise there that they won that game.
And you can jump on here tomorrow night at 7:00 Central Time. Listen to Coach Van's comments on the Tyler Van Show. We'll be here with Howie Chaney and myself with Coach Van, and look forward to talking to Coach Van.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm sure he'll be excited. Of course, he's going to be nervous about week one playing Piedmont because that's been his nemesis. So, he'd like to get that one. The biggest thing is get to 1-0 in region play. It's the most important thing.
I talked to Coach Van. We talked about those three coaches in his region that are all Hall of Famers, and I did not realize he is 0-9 against those three head coaches. So he wants. I know it's not Coach Smith at Piedmont, but be nice to get one against Piedmont for him.
Yeah, definitely. So, he's one of those coaches that everybody talks about down here. He and Michael Davis at Geraldine are two of the great young coaches that have a bright future. And that's one of them you always kind of worry about. As they get more and more successful, people's going to come knocking on their door. But right now, both of us happy where they're at. And it's good I hope it stays that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, get us around that DeKalb Jackson area, Phil.
Of course, the games, we'll go through the games. I've got the scores from the teams around the area. Of course, Ider got their first win. It was their first game. They beat Asbury 46-13. Of course, Fort Payne went down and beat Etowah. Big offensive performance for the Wildcats. Their problem is not scoring points. It's stopping people, but they beat Etowah 54-26. Of course, Geraldine beating 5-17-6. Collinsville didn't have any trouble with Galesville. They won their opening game 47-0. Of course, we talked about the Sylvania Sachs game. That had bounced back from that loss to North Sand Mountain and beats Section 56-0. Biggest thing so far with Valley Head, I know they feel like they should be 2-0, but they're 1-1 right now. But the biggest turnaround this year for Valley Head is defense. They've only given up 15 points in 2 ball games. So you got to like that going down the stretch. Because a lot of times, if you're going to be a playoff contender, Randy, you know this as well as I do, you got to be able to stop people.
Yeah, I was surprised not that they beat Section, but the fact they pitched out the shutout. And, last year with those 2 quarterback and running back, seems like Valley Head was beating everybody 43-32. And now this year, the ability to give up 15 points in 2 football games is not what last year was.
Yeah, they're not going to be as explosive on offense, but they're going to be a whole lot better defensively. So, it's just a different team, and they have a different personality, a different identity. But their front 7 on defensive side of football is pretty darn good. And if you have a hard time running on the high school football team, it gets tough. You know as well as I do. In high school, it's important to be able to run the football.
Absolutely.
See, our other games, it was Hewitt-Trussell. They beat Gaston City. Of course, Gaston City gave them a tough game. Hewitt-Trussell was always ranked in the top 10 in Class 7A, but they beat Gaston City 42-27. Cedar Bluff picked up their first wins. They beat Sandrock 28-7. Coosa Christian bounced back from the loss of Geraldine. They beat state-ranked Spring Garden 21-6, and that was a playoff type matchup because both of those schools are in 1A. They're just not in the same region. Scottsboro had North Jackson 44-15. What was you going to say?
I was going to ask you about Coosa Christian and being in that 1A. That has to be a very small private school because in Alabama, it's 1.5 kids at a private school.
Yeah, but they're growing. I mean, they are definitely growing. They may actually in the next count end up being in 2A. I'm not sure. I heard that rumor, but I don't know for sure. But they've got a great football team. They were one play away from getting to the finals last year.
Yeah.
And Spring Garden, they returned, I know, just about their whole offense. Their quarterback's real good, and they held them to 6 points. So Coosa Christian is going to be a team to reckon with in Class 1A.
Okay.
Of course, Scottsboro, the game was pretty close at halftime, but Scottsboro pulled away to beat North Jackson 44-15 as the Wildcats are now 2-0. Pisgah picked up their first win. Got up big early on Lexington. Of course, had to hold off late. Lexington made a game of it in the second half, and the Pisgah won that one 42-27 as they're ranked number 3 in class. We're this week. We're ranked number 3. I don't know how the top 10 fell after 5 got beat in week 1. Of course, North Sound Mountain lost to Dade County 55-13.
Phil, down that way, and we'll bring our guests. Our guest is going to be Ricky Gilley here in a few minutes, and of course Cavin Gilley. But you're a couple of weeks behind us. Now seeing 2 weeks of football, is there anyone that's completely surprised you in that North Alabama area?
Not so far, really, because a lot of the teams that have won so far have been teams you expect to win. Sylvania, I'm not surprised how they've gotten started off. Now, this week, it starts region play. So then you'll be able to really tell, the pretenders from the contenders. It starts this week. The region matchups start, and we'll see who's going to be what. That's like with the Geraldine 5 game. If you're going to get 5, you better get them early. Geraldine got them early because later in the year, this team will be a team to be reckoned with because it's a very young football team, and they've got a little growing up to do and cut out some of the mistakes. But we saw them do this a couple of years ago. And but they're going to be competitive. But no, there's not really anybody that stands out that we didn't think so far would be pretty good. So we'll just have to see. Maybe Scottsboro might be a little better than we originally thought. Of course, they got a lot of starters, but the thing is, too, they've got a couple of people hurt now, too. So we'll see how that goes as the year plays out. But no real surprises so far.
Let me ask you, I got a comment last week after the show that that we really didn't. We had mentioned it. We talked about it and talked about Prosperville being a good football team. I got 2 comments that said we really didn't understand how good Prosperville was. What is Priceville? I don't know the school.
Yeah, they're over around like around maybe toward the Coleman, Huntsville area.
Okay.
But I don't think they're quite as good this year as they have been. I think they went 10-2 maybe last year. Got to the second round of the playoffs where they lost. But I don't think they're quite as strong this year. But here lately, they're one of those teams that lights up the scoreboard. They score 40, 50 points a game.
That's interesting. There's been some changes in football since I was in that area several years ago. But yeah, it's definitely when I hear a name, I think it didn't ring a bell with me, right? I didn't put them together. Now, Phil, I do want to hit before we get out of the scoreboard. A couple of big games in Tennessee this week. Of course, Sequatchie County and South Pitt we'll talk about in a minute. But the Friday night CW 53 Rivals game this week is a game that's close to home. 2 teams that I know a lot about. Signal Mountain travels to Hickson, and I think it's great that the Channel 53 is going to get 2 teams that maybe in the top tier right now. One of them's, but the 53 does a good job of trying to get everybody on TV at some point.
Yeah, this is an important game for both teams.
Yes, sir.
And that, like we talked about, if Hickson can get to 2-2, they're going to feel pretty good about themselves.
Absolutely.
So, this is a big game for both those teams. And Signal Mountain trying to get their way back up in the upper echelon of teams in the Chattanooga area. There for a while, they were one of the juggernauts, but they've kind of slipped back. So they're trying to build a program back, just like Hickson is.
And, of course, on a normal week, I would be talking all about this game. But, Lipscomb Academy comes to Baylor. 2 superpowers in the private school meets up here in Chattanooga at Baylor. That's going to be something special.
Reckon it'll be an overflow crowd. I would imagine so.
Yes.
There'll be a lot of folks be interested in that game. Definitely, no doubt about that.
Alabama, Tennessee connection. Edwin Spilling committed to Tennessee. Amari Jefferson committed to Alabama. Definitely going to be some people there. Another game, one more game I want to get talked about real quick, and then we'll take a little break here, bring Coach Gilley on. And it's again 2 teams that we normally don't talk about, but they sit right side by side each other up here. And we're going to have I just lost the game. In Bradley County, we got Bradley Central at Walker Valley. Walker Valley just beat Cleveland, and you got to still think Bradley Central off that big Marable win is the team to watch. But, when you get those 3 county schools playing each other, you get some funny outcomes.
Yeah, because Walker Valley is a pretty good football team. They over the years they've gotten a little better and a little better. So this is one of those, I guess you would call for Bradley Central a trap game. They've had 3 emotional games in a row, and they got to get up once again for a team that's probably night in and night out, not as good as they are, but on a given night could make it hard on them and actually pick up an upset if they're not ready to play. Kids are always ready to play on a Friday night, but sometimes mentally you're just not there, and that happens to teams sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're in Tennessee. We're coming up on week 4. We're starting towards that midway point of the year, so we'll be there. Well, Bill, I'm going to put us on a little commercial, and then I'll bring Coach Gilley on and get everything squared away. And hopefully, everybody, I'm going to put my One River City commercial on a loop here and let it play for a minute, and we'll be right back with more of Beyond the Booth.
Chattanooga, when you call, we answer.
Now, we're calling on you.
Vote for Davis, Kessler & Davis as your best personal injury law firm at bestofchat.com.
Bill's going to cover a lot of the, well, here we're back now. We'll just get into it. Welcome aboard, everybody. Our commercials, sometimes I don't pay attention. They run out before I get them. I want to welcome in a real friend of mine, someone I've known for a good little while, and also his son, and a kid that I absolutely love, and has been with us at Sequatchie County the last 3 years, now with his dad at South Pittsburgh. But let me bring in first Coach Ricky Gilley, passing coordinator for the South Pittsburgh Power. Welcome aboard, Coach Gilley.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Coach Gilley, before I bring Cavin in and I turn it over to Phil, I have a picture up on our screen now that will be the cover to this on YouTube. And you credited a wonderful young lady named Faith Kelly, whose dad sits in the office with me every day. But it's a picture of you and Cavin on the sideline. And that's special for you to be reunited and see him play every night.
Oh, man, it was I tried not to bug him too much, but I'd always told him that, I wanted him to make the decision not based off what I want. It was his life, and I wanted him, life's about choices, and sometimes you make decisions, and they affect a lot of people. He had a lot of friends there, still has friends there. I forced them to come with me to Sequatchie when I took that job, and it was very difficult. My boys had a lot of resentment. It caused a lot of internal family issues, and I didn't want to force my kids to do that anymore. So I allowed Cavin to stay at Sequatchie the year after it didn't work out for me to be there. I was only there that 1 year. Loved it there, enjoyed it there. There's great people there. Loved everything about the place. Great facilities. The support system there. The quarterback club they have. Just the school administrators. I mean, it was a blessing for the year. Even though it was a short period of time, I was very grateful for the opportunity. So I knew my son was in a good situation, and I obviously have a lot of respect for Rusty, Coach McIntyre there. Great man. I love his family. He may not be too thrilled with me that I took one of his players that he was going to be counting on, but he's a father. He loves his kids, and I know he understands. But I left Cavin there knowing that what Rusty was doing, I believed in it. I knew he runs a good program. He's a great offensive mind. And you can tell over the time that he's been there how much the program's improved. And they've really bought into the weight program, and those kids are selling out for them, and it's showing. It's showing on film. I mean, I've spent probably 10 hours breaking down film of them, just trying to, do our due diligence and get ready for them. But kudos to what those guys are doing there. They do a great job. We've said all week to our kids, this is by far going to be our biggest game, our biggest test this year. Yeah, we played Franklin County, and they're a 5A program. But if you just turn the film on, there's no question that Sequatchie's better coached. They've got more talent. They might not have an individual player or two as good as what Franklin had, but they've got more talent collectively. And he's got those kids bought in. It's going to be a big challenge for us. They're doing things the right way over there, and we're telling our kids it's a big time atmosphere, and we're looking forward to getting them over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil, I'll come to you after I ask Cavin one question. Cavin, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I just want to tell you I still love you, buddy. When you take the helmet off on Friday night, even though you're not in Sequatchie County, it was a pleasure to watch you the last couple of years and miss seeing you out on the field. And while Friday night, we might be on the opposite side, me in the booth and you on the field. When you take the helmet off, you're still Cavin Gilley. And I want you to know it's always going to be the same for us and how we feel about you.
Yes, sir.
And Cavin, what's it feel like being at South Pittsburgh and you knew what was happening at Sequatchie, and now you're going back, and you've got so many ties to that community, and like I said, you've got girlfriends and family and everything. It's got to be emotional for you.
Yeah, it's a little emotional. I still have a lot of friends over there that I still talk to pretty much every day. Yeah, well, my girlfriend, she recently graduated, but that kind of made the move a little easier because I still get to see her all the time. But yeah, there's a lot of people over there that I still count on.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. And we went through a good year last year. It was a lot of fun and a lot of growth happened. Phil, why don't I bring you in and ask Cavin and Coach Gilley some questions?
Yeah, well, Coach Gilley, I want to ask you about this. I mean, I know the first 3 weeks of the season, South Pittsburgh's been ranked high, and the expectations are high. But really, this week is a game that you point to. Not only is it a big rivalry, but this is going to be a measuring stick for your football team.
Yeah, no question. Coach Stone, our head coach, obviously, well respected. Been doing this a long time, and he's got our kids believing. I mean, we've got a good group of kids, but he's our leader, and he's told our kids this is going to be the best coached, the most well-rounded team that we have faced, hands down. And if we just stroll in like and take it casual, that this bunch is if you watch them on film, they're good enough to punch you in the face, and they're going to have a little fight to them. I still talk to some of those kids that I coached. I love those kids, and they've got some dogs over there, and they're doing a phenomenal job. But our kids have had a phenomenal week of practice. I will say that. Coach Stone has he's rallied the troops. They understand that it's a business week. This is a huge week for our program. And we've had a phenomenal week of practice, and the kids are excited about coming to Dunlap. They know it's always a competitive game. They know it's going to be a physical game. They know they've got great facilities. Our kids are excited about having the opportunity to come play on the turf under the bright lights. And so it's going to be an exciting time for all, and I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, there's some emotional ties there. Only though I was there a short period of time, man, you just build and bond and make relationships with those kids, and you just you love them, and you do what you can do for the time that God's got you planted wherever He puts you, whether it's 1 year or 10 years or whatever. And I still have several of those kids call me just to talk, just to check on me, text me, Coach, how you doing? And if I see something or hear something, I'll reach out to them. Hey, man, I'm thinking about you. I love you. So, I think that's important. I mean, the X's and O's, is important, but letting kids know how you feel about them and let them know what they mean to you, that will mean more to them 5, 10, 20 years down the road when they think about you than the X's and O's.
Yeah, I think something I wanted to ask you about. I think when you start out in coaching, winning and losing is probably the most important thing. But after a while, when you get to see these kids and watch them grow up and watch them mature, you're more interested in how they become as people and come back and thank you for what you teach them, more than it is about wins and losses. And that's what football is really all about.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. I used to coach Little League, and then, about every team I've ever been on, I just made it a habit to always tell the group of kids, whoever it is, that, hey, I love you.
Yeah.
Win, lose, draw, I'm going to love you. And it's hard to believe in today's society, but I've had kids come back and tell me that as old as they are, that they've never had people tell them they love them. And it seems unfathomable that would be the case in today's age. But you don't know what these kids are dealing with day in and day out. They don't always go home to mom and daddy. Some of them don't have a home. Some of them go home to broken homes, the different scenarios that we can all relate to. But, I've always considered coaching when I got into this, as an early coach, as a young coach, it was always about the scheme and the X's and O's, and that stuff's important, and you need to study it, and you need to know it. But man, the relationships is why I do it. It's just I love working with the kids. I do love teaching technique, fundamentals, and all the things that's important that you have to do to be successful. But just building those relationships and growing those relationships, because the thing that I've found in my time of coaching is if you get them kids loving you and believing in you, man, they'll go to bat for you. And they'll run into a brick wall for you. And so I've just tried to do that everywhere I've been. I did that at Dunlap as well, the short time I was there. And I think that's a testament to the kids that continue to stay in touch and reach out and, comment on social media and, check on me from time to time. And I just think that's important. And that's kind of why I do it.
Yeah, of course, I know a lot of every coach will tell you this. It's always great to see those kids, how they respond when that light comes on, when they truly get it. That's a big thrill for coaches. Well, Coach, you talked to us about Sequatchie County being there. Tell us about what it's like to be at South Pittsburgh. We know traditionally it's a great football school. Give us some insight of what it's like to be at South Pittsburgh.
Well, it's a high-pressure job. As you may assume, even though it's a small school, these folks consistently are used to winning, and when you don't win, you're not doing very good. And as a coach, that's a hard spot to be in. I mean, we went out the second round last year, and to most people, that would have been a great year.
Right.
That's a miserable experience for the Pirates because they're used to making it, third, fourth, playing for a state, winning the state, at worst finishing second. So when you're not getting to that level, as sad as that may sound, it's a disappointing year for the Pirates.
Hey, Phil, let me throw that same question to Cavin. Cavin, well, is it the difference in the schedule, or is it just still lining up and playing football? Now, and I also wanted to ask you, it's different because you've changed sides of the football majorly too.
Yes, sir. It's been a little different. I really haven't been my mindset on defense, but this year it really is. I'm not really as involved in the offense as I would like to be, so I'm really just focusing on defense, and it's been really different to me because I'm not usually lining up and getting my mind right to go hit somebody as hard as I can every play, but it's been a little different, yeah.
And you played majorly wide receiver at Sequatchie County, so it is a different mentality, I'm sure. Phil, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to hear Cavin's comments on that too.
Well, I want to ask Cavin a question. Cavin, your dad talked about he didn't want to pressure you to come to South Pittsburgh, but does it get to a point where, as the old saying says, that blood is thicker than water, that you would love to play for your dad? It doesn't matter what color uniform you wear.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I loved all the kids over there and all my friends that I had, but you can make new friends. But I wanted to finish my year with my dad, my senior year.
Yeah, because I know it's a big thrill for you. And, of course, he gets to see you every Friday night, too. And that has to be a big thrill for him because otherwise he'd just have to keep up with you by hearing a score and talking to you after the ball game. So that's got to be a big thrill for him to be able to ride home at night and talk about the game a little bit, and enjoy the relationship because it probably makes you and your dad a lot closer.
Yeah, it definitely does. Last year it was kind of upsetting just every game because I'd be looking for him and he's just not there. So, yeah.
It was really a strange atmosphere, Phil, if I can comment, when we did play South Pittsburgh last year. And I looked across and I saw Coach Gilley, but then I looked at our sideline and I saw Cavin. It really, I don't know that that's ever happened in my career.
Yeah, well,
Let me add this. Cavin had gotten hurt probably about 2 weeks before the game last year, and he was unable to play. And, man, I was so wanting him to be able to play. Although, of course, I wanted to beat him. But I did want to be able to see my son play him when he got hurt. that was a little disheartening because I think they had an off week. There was an off week or something to where I was going to be able to see them down.
Yeah, I remember this.
Season. And then I was going to be able to see him play then, and then later in the season. And then when he didn't get to play, it ended up to where I was only able to get to watch him the one time. But those things are uncontrollable, and you just have to roll with the punches. But that was unfortunate that happened to him.
And now that you jog my memory, I do remember seeing him standing on the sideline in his jersey. Yeah. Go ahead, Phil.
I want to ask you one more question, Coach. That has to be a thrill for you now because your son's getting to play and the family roots for one team, and they only have to worry about going to one game. It has to be a lot more relaxing, and it's a lot better at home for you that you're not torn. Because like you said before, it can tear a family apart being on different sides, but that has to be a thrill for you.
Well, it does make everything easier logistically for my family. Obviously, they'd like to come and support me and my coaching, and they know that's always been my passion and my desire to work and influence kids and mentor. But I would always tell them, hey, go watch Cavin because, he's only going to be able to do this for a short period of time. Good Lord willing, as long as I've got health, I don't see myself ever doing anything else. So I've got time, for y'all to come, but I want y'all to go support him. But yes, to have everybody be able to come to the same place and support, Cavin and myself, it's the way that I feel like it was intended to be. I'm glad he made that decision. Although I wasn't going to force that decision, but it really did. When he made the ultimate decision to do that, it just made my life so much easier.
Yeah, I bet so. Kevin, I want to ask you one question. Now, your dad's been doing this. Is your future maybe in coaching football, or are you planning to do something else?
I don't really plan on coaching football. Maybe like just help out with the program, but I don't really plan on coaching.
Do you not? I just want some players, follow in Dad's footsteps, and some want to do other things. So I just kind of wanted to see what your thinking was.
He wants to go make some money.
Well, coaching's not it. Broadcasting neither.
Yeah, it's kind of like radio people. You do it for fun. It ain't for the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a lot smarter than you then, Ricky, isn't he, Coach Gilley?